We have a few people presenting today. So I'm Devin Waugh, the instruction librarian for NC Live, and I have two co-hosts with me today, Sophie Hollis
Hey everyone. I'll
and
introduce myself. I'm
yeah,
the community engagement librarian with NC Live.
and Callie Hester.
Hey, I'm doing my work experience for UNCG here at NC Live.
Yeah, and Callie also runs social media and marketing for Jackson County Public Library in Western North Carolina. So we were really excited for Callie to take her on the job experience and apply it to developing this guide this spring. And so, learning outcomes for today, we're going to cover how to identify and apply certain best practices for marketing e resources and teaching patrons how to use them, integrating e-resources into library programming in a thoughtful way, to move them from the computer screen on a public computer to more active community engagement, and then developing a very streamlined, manageable outreach strategy by using the mini marketing plan template and more supporting materials that we've included in the guide's appendix. So, question for the chat. What methods of e-resources marketing have been most effective for your library? And it doesn't matter if you're from a public library or an academic library. Yeah, so we're seeing, let's see, social media posts and handouts at outreach events, hand selling. So, kind of having a conversation with a patron and providing maybe like a bookmark or brochure explaining a database, library instruction, word of mouth, using our research guides to market e resources for assignments, Instagram stories with links to high profile books, and then 5x7 cards with QR codes to the books online. Ooh, I love that, Suzanne. And then Lori sharing displays and bookmarks for Overdrive. Nice. Yeah, there's a variety of different approaches. I'm at the top of this presentation going to cover best practices that were really informed by a national survey that Sophie and I did. We distributed it via a variety of listservs, and we tried to take a very pragmatic approach, gathering both quantitative and qualitative data on how libraries of varying sizes, of varying services populations do e-resources marketing, trying to determine what are the pain points, what are um, success stories, and really solidifying some strategies for approaching e-resources marketing, especially if a library is feeling like they haven't done that in a while or um, don't always have the time to prioritize it. So the survey was open for 4 weeks. We got almost 300 responses. And here's the response breakdown. So most of our respondents were from public libraries. Their staff size tended to be smaller. So we had a lot of public libraries that had between 11 to 30 employees total. A quarter were 1 to 5 at their library. And then in terms of service population, the bulk of our libraries that responded to the survey had a service population lower than 50,000. And so we tended to find that we were reaching a lot of small rural libraries, which was really good for us because a lot of our member libraries are small rural libraries around North Carolina. And what we noticed in the survey when we asked respondents what barriers they experienced with e-resources marketing, these were the ones that came up consistently. Public awareness being a barrier, access and technical issues, marketing and promotion limitations, patron preferences, and training gaps. And so we did ask what barriers people notice, but then also what they did to address those barriers. And so I'll get into that in the next slide. And so in terms of addressing barriers, we did a analysis of themes from the survey, and we found that they were split into two different categories. There was the approach for patrons, how to support patrons with these barriers, and then how to support staff with these barriers. So on the patron side, we saw a lot related to education, providing classes, one-on-one consultations, building e-resources into programming were strategies that libraries took where that personal attention really helped patrons who might be struggling with logging in using their library card or getting set up with Libby. Um, and then also, we found that a lot of our respondents said that internet access might be spotty in their location. And so, having tech checkouts for hotspots or devices really helped ease that barrier. And then within the library, what we found in terms of promoting access to these resources was making things as seamless as possible. So, shorten URLs to databases, having QR codes on shelf talkers next to resources, and really assessing and updating library websites to see what is the most easy, convenient pathway to this resource that we're trying to promote. Making sure that those updates are added in when possible really helped lighten and reduce some of those barriers on the patron side of things. On the staff side of things, one thing that we found was like buy-in was really essential. It's really important for leadership to view marketing and specifically e-resources marketing as a priority, given that libraries spend so much of their budget every year on purchasing these databases or licensing them for their service population. It's really critical for that return on investment if word is being spread and they're being used and usage is being tracked. And really, not only is it important for that return on investment piece, but allocating resources, whether it's staff time. We asked if libraries had a dedicated marketing professional. Most of our respondents said no, but they often commented on how it's important to, if you don't have a dedicated marketing professional at your library, to allocate staff time, spread that responsibility in an intentional way, and if possible, have some small budget for marketing as needed. And then one thing that we found was really consistent when people talked about what they did to address these barriers is having a very experimental approach to marketing techniques. So trial and error, figuring out what worked, what time of day, what posts got the most engagement, and trying out different channels, whether it's deciding to work with your local newspaper or trying out a marketing strategy with a particular department on campus, really trying to determine, okay, this worked, but this didn't work. And so what are we going to do moving ahead? But one of the strongest themes in our survey was patron education works best in person. So while digital marketing and passive promotion have their place, respondents overwhelmingly reported that face-to-face interaction was what moved the needle. It was the most effective way to increase usage of resources. They mentioned classes as well as one-on-one consultations in particular as being important. One respondent shared, we have book a tech appointments and tech programming to help our most tech averse patrons and let them know about our resources. And then community outreach was really important as well. So some libraries are going beyond their walls to reach patrons where they are. Outreach was mentioned with different examples like Libby training sessions at local retirement communities, partnering with schools, workforce centers, and community groups. And one respondent said staff have just been doing more out in the community in the last few years, such as having sessions on Libby. Um, and so the key takeaways really are that face-to-face interaction is the best way to build awareness and confidence in using e-resources. Tech-averse patrons really need more of that hands-on support through structured appointments and training programs rather than informal interactions on the desk. But just as educating patrons is crucial, ensuring that library staff are confident in marketing and supporting e-resources is just as important. However, many libraries reported challenges in making training in particular a consistent priority. And so some mentioned that they've collaborated with their communications team and outreach librarians to improve marketing strategies. Cross training was mentioned once by a respondent in the survey, but they found that one of the approaches that's most effective for buy in across an organization is distributing responsibilities for marketing across positions, having people involved with um, developing the visual design, doing social media, doing outreach tabling at events. Um, but a common challenge is, as would not be surprising, lack of follow through due to competing priorities. So, one respondent shared, we met with the communications professionals in the library and the outreach librarian to get feedback on ideas on how to market e resources better. We've lacked follow through on their good advice, mostly due to other projects taking precedence. So, that's something where maybe kind of as a future thought, thinking through how to do cross training on e-resources and marketing skills might be something that we kind of address in our own program improvement in the future, because it's something that people don't always think they need to develop that skill until they're brought into a situation where it's like, all right, you're going to go do this event. And so it's something that people really do learn on the job. And they might turn to us and professional member organizations for ongoing training, but it's not something that they might have formalized experience with, especially not in graduate school. But our takeaways from the survey are understanding those barriers is really the first step. Identifying those obstacles like lack of awareness, staff training gaps, and limited resources for marketing really helps you figure out um, what's holding your library back and kind of what are some opportunities to address those barriers. Um, Collaboration strengthens success. So one thing that we found was spreading marketing tasks across multiple positions really helps sustain e-resource promotion, particularly when the library doesn't have a dedicated position for marketing. And then ongoing training and cross training are really essential for building that staff confidence and engagement. It's not a one and done thing, but it's something that really gets developed over time, especially as platforms change on the minute. It's really important to keep up to date with what has changed. And so we really found that that training piece and then that strategy with promotion leads to higher engagement, tailoring outreach efforts, not trying to do everything at once, but really focusing on things in a given quarter and then improving and experimenting from there is really key.
All right. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Sophie. I'm the community engagement librarian. So I just wanted to jump in here and talk about some of the general tips we have for increasing your e-resource usage based on the survey that Devin just kind of went over, and also based on the Maximize program, which I manage for NC Live, and that I'll talk about more in the following slides. So one thing that we recommend in general is if you're looking to increase your e-resource usage is to develop a plan and use benchmarking to make sure that you have clear goals and that you're actually meeting those goals. So hopefully I see many familiar names in this webinar, but hopefully you all know about our usage stats portal. You may or may not know that we recently updated it. So if you haven't had a chance to look at the new page, I highly recommend. It looks fantastic, and there's several new features that hopefully will make it easier for you to use. We'll share these slides at the end of the presentation, and it's linked here. But what you can do is you can look at your library's usage data for all of your NC Live resources, and you can actually look at any of our member libraries' usage data. So one of the new features that we've added is this peer comparison report. And if you're in your library, it will auto-populate in that bar. It will put your library's name and then a couple other libraries that are a similar either full-time enrollment or service area size to your library. So that's a great way to just get a snapshot of like, is my usage good compared to my peers? You might not realize what the numbers, if the numbers you're seeing are relatively strong or not. So looking at your peers can be a good way to kind of contextualize the usage of your resources. And what we find is across libraries, pretty much most libraries have a few resources that their patrons know and use a lot. And then there's also a set of resources that tends to be popular in their peer libraries or across other similar library types that maybe your library staff isn't as focused on or doesn't promote as much. So using your usage data and your peers' usage data, and honestly, you can also just pull like your entire community of interest. That's what COI stands for. That's like if you wanted to look at all the public libraries, for example, you can look at that and then you can see across the table, like, a bunch of my peers are really using Heritage Quest a lot, but my usage of Heritage Quest is not that high. That would be a great one for you to focus on promoting. Yes, for dropping the link in the chat. Maybe Devin, can you help me with that if you have a second? Yes, we'll definitely share that. The other thing you can do on your usage, the new usage portal, oh, perfect. Yeah, we can show you, is you can actually get graphs as well. So if you wanted to graph your usage, if you're a visual learner like me, that's another great way to kind of see like, your usage over time, or also the literal drawing of your usage compared to the peer library usage. Could we go back to the slide when you have a second? Perfect. Thank you. The other thing I would recommend is choosing a focus. I think I've alluded to this a little bit, what I was just saying. You don't have to try to promote NC Live in general or e-resources in general, because sometimes that's just like too much to handle. And we have like 88 databases and nobody wants to, try to absorb all that information at once. So choosing a focus, finding out what's popular in your library. For example, maybe you have lots of people interested in local history and genealogy, then focusing on the local history and genealogy e-resources is like a great place to start. And we have lots of subject areas on our A to Z list, so you can actually look by subject there, kind of get some ideas for like where to start. The other thing I would recommend as you're developing a plan is to check out our wonderful library of recorded webinars. I assume most of you being here today know about our YouTube channel, but just in case, that's also linked on this slide. We have tons of awesome webinars about creating a marketing plan, how to boost your e-resource usage in all these different scenarios. Devin and I have really been working on marketing training in the past couple of years. So please check out our YouTube channel for ideas as you're developing this plan. So another general piece of advice is to think about which channels you want to focus on. Again, there's so many possibilities that it can really help you to kind of narrow in on a few things that you do well or places that you know your patrons are going to be looking. So the first thing I have to promote, obviously, is my baby on the NC Live website is our promotional materials page. And I'll get a link to this as well. It's also linked on the slides. But if anyone has not used it before, it is basically this huge menu of pre-made flyers, bookmarks, posters, brochures, all these like printable promotional materials for our resources. So if you know you're going to be doing a program or outreach to a specific department and you want to bring something physical with you to remind patrons that this is available, you can just pick what you need on here, download it, print it off. It's like 30 seconds of marketing work. So here's an example. Here's the homepage right now. And this is actually about to be updated for the beginning of the month in May. So there'll be new stuff featured. But yeah, this is a great way to do that marketing work very quickly if you don't have time to design something yourself. We also have a huge library of stuff you can order from our vendors directly, where they will ship it to your library completely for free. It's like online shopping. Highly recommend checking that out if you have not done it before. Again, completely for free. It's ordered through us. It's literally just to know how much of what stuff you want. So please use it. Of course, the other channels I have listed here are also really important to think about how you're promoting your e-resources in each of them. Our library website, we actually had a whole webinar about this earlier in the marketing series. If you missed it, please check it out. It's on our YouTube channel. But it's really important to list the actual e-resources on your site as opposed to just like an NC Live link or something. So that we have lots of tips about how to promote e-resources on your actual website, in your newsletters and communications that you're sending to your patrons. One example that I think we'll talk about more in the guide with Callie, so I won't go into too much detail, is using local media placement to advertise your library services and your e-resources as well. A big one that NC Live has been working on lately is partner organization outreach, so trying to identify other organizations in our community that share our goals and that might find our resources useful. So one example of this is for a library to reach out to a local chamber of commerce and share some of the business resources that we have available. So just thinking about who in your community might benefit from these can be a good way to do that targeted outreach. And then, of course, we have social media, another one that we have a great webinar on from like 2 weeks ago from this very series. So please check that out if you want more detailed tips. So step one of integrating e-resources, I know that Devin has talked about this in our survey data, but I just want to really hit this point home. The library staff needs to know how to use these e-resources and what's available through the library. So our part in this is we really try to make sure that we have tons of training modes available for you to learn how to use these e-resources. Shout out to Devin, who does so much incredible work on this. We have so many modes. As you've seen, our training calendar, we have these live webinars, but we also have these great 10 minutes or fewer crash course videos and these self-paced resource tutorials. So if there's a particular resource that you want to promote and you don't really know anything about it, and that's okay. We have a lot. You can watch the crash course video or take the self-paced resource tutorial, which has no sound. So if you work at a desk, it's great to click through. And you can learn about that pretty quickly. And you can also share those with your patrons if they need help understanding the resource. So making sure that the people you work with know what's available through NC Live in your library is like the key important step, just to emphasize that again. Then I also want to emphasize this idea that I just mentioned about outreach. It's thinking about what your library is already doing and who's already in your community that would be like an easy bridge to form with an e-resource. So these are some general examples that we've heard. We have great book club resources with Homegrown, which has unlimited simultaneous use on several permanent ebooks, perfect for book clubs. They're on Biblioboard and Libby. You can also use Novelist to make recommendations. If you have a small business center at your community college or a small business technology development center at your UNC campus, they would benefit from the business resources that your library provides. I've already called out some of these genealogy and public library examples, but it's really key to think about who's in your community and what they might find useful that's in the collection that maybe you already have a relationship with them, you're already doing stuff with them, and now you can recommend an e-resource to go along with what you're already doing. And along those lines, I'll also point out we have these great flyers for specific audiences that we just made with one of our committees. So these are linked, they're on our promotional materials page, but if you're going to go to a K-12 classroom, for example, or maybe you're doing a veterans and military affiliated patrons program of some kind, and you want to know what e-resources are relevant for those groups, we have flyers with all of the resources that are relevant for those groups. And as you can see on the career resources one that we have here, a lot of them have QR codes and links that make it easy for patrons to get to. We also know that your library branding goes further than the NC Live branding sometimes. So a lot of these are customizable. They'll have a link to a Canva template. You will open it, you'll get a Canva page that you can edit. You can change the colors and add your library logo to give it a little bit more authority in your community. And if you find one that doesn't have a Canva link, email the help desk and we can create one for you and send it to you. So these are ready to go and they're customizable, a great way to reach out to specific audiences without having to be an expert in all of the resources that we have. So I just wanted to review a couple of services that NC Live offers that we can help you with marketing if you're interested. The pre-made and customizable materials, I've just gone over quite a bit from the promotional materials page. But the other thing we offer is one-on-one consultations with Maximize. And I think I have a whole slide on this, so I'm going to hold off on explaining it too deeply. And then, of course, this e-resources marketing guide that we are about to put out and that Callie will give you a preview of. So if you have any questions about e-resource marketing, NC Live has tons of support for you. Please reach out to us and explore our website to see what would be best for your needs. So here's another plug for the promotional materials page. I guess that I was thinking we wouldn't show you, but here it is. This is what it looks like. And you can see the checkbox in the left side menu that says order from vendors. If you check that box, it will show you items with a little shopping cart icon when you hover over it. And those are things that you can add to your cart, order directly from vendors. Everything you can download and print yourself. So all of this is available for you to freely use. And then the other feature I just wanted to highlight of our promotional materials page is that you can filter by resource. So if you go into your usage stats and you're like, I really want to promote novelist, our library should be using that a lot more than we are. You can filter by novelist and it will show you all the stuff that we have available. And that can be a great place to start. All right, here's Maximize. This is a one-on-one mini consulting service that we offer completely for free. So anyone can sign up and do this. All you have to do on your end is fill out a survey, and you can find the link to that survey there at nclive.org/maximize, as well as more information about this program. But it's basically just a Google survey that asks you some basic overview information about your library and how things work. And then we create a custom report of ideas, specifically of resources you could be promoting more based on your peers, ways to better tailor your website to feature e-resources, ways to generally increase usage, and what kinds of training your staff might be most interested in. So we put that all together for you, and it doesn't take any work on your part, except you have to meet with me for an hour. You have to meet with me for an hour and hear me talk about your library. And then we kind of tweak it based on your needs and send it to you. So hopefully that is a helpful option for folks. The only thing I will say about this program is it is extremely popular. We are booked out pretty far right this moment. So if you're interested in this, highly recommend filling it out as soon as you can and reserving a spot on the calendar because we do get scheduled out very far for this rather labor-intensive service that we love to do. And that's all I've got. If anyone has any questions about how NC Live can support your marketing, please email the help desk or you can reach out to me directly, and I'll turn it over to Callie to talk about our new guide.
Hey everybody. Yeah, I'm Callie. I work at a small rural library in Western North Carolina, like Devin said, and I developed the NC Lib e-resources marketing guide. Mainly what I'm going to talk through is the support materials from that guide. So a few of the resources we have for you to kind of plan out your marketing plan and get thinking about how everything that Sophie and Devin have talked about applies to you. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about some examples that are in the guide that were really helpful and how I kind of applied it to my library. So first up, we have a SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is a really good way to sort of figure out your library's current situation and identify your potential goals that Sophie was kind of talking about and how you construct, how you're going to think about your marketing. You need to pick some key things to focus on. So you can evaluate your library and use that to the best of your ability. And the ALA also does provide a free template that you can use that has a lot of great questions that you can start asking yourself as well as you sort of begin to construct this. So first we have obviously the strengths. So those are things that your library is good at, areas maybe where your staff has expertise, where things work really smoothly, things that can be utilized to accomplish your goals in the future. It's good to ask yourself, what are your library's contributions to the community? And what does your library do that no one else does? And what are your users like about your library? So surveys can be useful also in putting this together, I will say. So maybe look into that as well. And there's some good examples of this, like your website is well organized, maybe that's one of your strengths, or you have several staff members who like graphic design or are really good at Canva already, and you can sort of target those areas and bring them forward to their full potential. You also should look at your weaknesses and see what's kind of feasible for you. Ask yourself, where do you have fewer resources than other libraries? You have staffing challenges maybe that you need to address. Do you have feedback from users that maybe they want to see things expanded upon or worked on or stuff like that? So maybe like your marketing efforts are there, but they're not as consistent and stuff like that. That kind of helps you think about um, what might limit you and how to maybe focus your efforts then that way. We also have opportunities. So we know our strengths and our weaknesses. It's time to identify like where we can grow, what areas we want to focus on within that skill set. So if your library had the resources to do everything, what would you want to do? Things like that. What's happening in the world now that you can take advantage of? And how can your strengths open doors for your library as you sort of move through? This can be expanding staff knowledge and training, like going to those webinars that we were talking about, systematizing your marketing efforts, increasing public understanding of library e-resources and the value that your library brings to the community, and cultivating library advocates, things like that. And then lastly, your threats. This can be things like what's happening in the world that could impact your library negatively, what weaknesses leave you vulnerable to competition from other things, other services. So examples can include limited public understanding of the resources that are already available in the library, or a burden on staff's time, things like that. So hopefully in putting these different factors together, you can begin to get a picture of some of your goals that you want to accomplish in this process and what's feasible for your library personnel to accomplish, basically. So for Jackson County Public Library, I got there about 2 years ago, I think now, which is crazy. But when I started there, we had some really robust social media presence online on Instagram and Facebook mostly. And we get a lot of play on Facebook, but our Instagram especially just wasn't hitting a lot of metrics because we cross post sometimes. So we could compare the metrics, and Facebook was doing great, but Instagram, not so much. So when I got to my experience with NC Live, I learned a lot about marketing. And one thing that I really, really enjoyed was the emphasis on print news media and how you can collaborate with that, because that was also something we were doing at the library that was seeing a lot of really positive, I think, feedback with the community. We would have an ad in the newspaper about some of our tech services, and we would get a lot of calls from older folks, which was really, really great because we live in a really rural area where there's not a lot of internet services. There's not a lot of things like that. So people can't always go on our website and check out a calendar. So we had to publish it. And that helped us really get some great attendance numbers boosted for our older patrons coming in for tech appointments, which helps promote e-resources, which is super cool. And I watched a webinar actually that helped tip me out to this as well, where there was an example of Forsyth County Public Library where they had a librarian who took us even further and did a monthly column in a local paper about libraries and their services that I think really connects to what Sophie and Devin were saying about the one-on-one connection and how really emphasizing that connection with people can help them get over maybe barriers they have in their head about using e-resources, which is pretty cool. And now I'm just going to go through a bunch of cool examples that are in the marketing guide that are from all over the state. These are just great examples of libraries who are having great ideas. So Wake County Public Library uses the Ferguson Career Guidance Center and Learning Express Library during resume review sessions to help patrons out who are maybe seeking guidance for applying to jobs and things like that. Haywood County Public Library uses cookbooks from Homegrown for their cookbook club. And Sophie mentioned just book clubs in general. That's a great resource for that. And then UNC Chapel Hill shows students Novelists Plus at Leisure book club readings, which I think is super cool as well for reading advisory. Because I think a book club, honestly, the hardest part is choosing a book personally for me. That's always hard to get everyone happy. One area where I really expanded my knowledge was with academic libraries because I work in a rural public library. It's a little bit different. This is another one that I pulled from a wonderful webinar. I cannot emphasize enough how great these webinars are that Sophie and Devin put on and how useful they are for expanding like your marketing knowledge. And this is an example for faculty outreach, which is huge for academic libraries and getting educators to integrate this into their classrooms. Not only does it get the educator using it, it can get the students using it as well. And one way to do that is to give faculty a little toolkit with some of their biggest like topics and instructions that they might teach. So for this one, this is an example of an anthropology class on Native American societies, and you might give them template language for describing Indigenous peoples of North America collection, links to content from that, a list of relevant titles in eBook Central, JSTOR, Homegrown Collection, and some clips and documentaries from Films on Demand. So just have that package for them and lower that barrier for entry. It really helps them get inspired to use it, and then it trickles down, and it's just a great way to promote the resource. There's also some great website examples that I just want to boost because they're super cool. Chapel Hill Public Library is just a great website. It's got these graphic design tiles that are little visual signifiers that you can click on for services that are really commonly requested. You load their homepage and they are right there. They have beautiful icons, draws the eye. They're great. And Sophie was mentioning the promotional materials page. They are there. They are downloadable. They're customizable. So you can put them on your own website as well if you like them, which I think is just a really great idea. And then in terms of social media channels that are really cool, because I know that's a really popular one. It's really great because it's usually free and easy. And it is a great way to promote things. Southern Pines Public Library and Wake County Public Libraries have really great, strong examples of effective public library social media accounts. So I would recommend going to their Facebook, their Instagram, checking those out because they're really great. And then lastly, we have this mini marketing plan here. This template is from Michelle Newcomb. It was presented at LNCC. I think it's a really smart and focused way of starting to get your head around a marketing plan and the sort of goals you want to set. And then crucially, check in on as you start to implement your campaign. So you choose one digital resource, which I think is really smart. You look at the KPI, which is the key performance indicators. So how did it do 2 years ago? How did it do last year? And then how do you want it to do in the coming year as well? And you can compare with other libraries now, which is cool. So if we talked about that. You can also choose your audience, key messages, goals, and then your marketing channels as well. And there's plenty of space to feel things out and plan. This is going to be in the marketing guide as well. So if you want it, it's going to be in there. So this is just an example for transparent language online and what a marketing plan might look like for transparent language online. So you have the usage in 2025 and 2026. Or this is hypothetical, so it's in the future. And then what do you want it to be for January 2027 as well? And then you choose your audience. So maybe you want to market to adults who are wanting to learn a new language. So you need to think about what adults wanting to new language, why aren't they using this resource if we have it available to them? So maybe they don't want it because they don't think you can access it on a handheld device and they don't consider that convenient. So they have some trepidation about everyday use because they only have a phone, they don't have a laptop. Maybe they don't know that it isn't just for people who speak English as a first language, it's for people who are English as a second language learners as well. So that's what you then try and address with your key messages. So you try and get out there that they have an app version that's available. You try to get that out there that there's 110 languages on the platform and that they do offer English for foreign language speakers. And then from there, you try and create a goal. So this goal would be to increase transparent language online usage by 25% by the next year. And after that, you can look at marketing channels. So these are just examples. You obviously don't have to do like every marketing channel in existence. It's probably better that you don't, but I think it's a good way to sort of look at the different ways you can market one resource. And maybe if one of these isn't working for you, you evaluate that and you switch to a different one. So for this one, for email, a great way is to add little tiny ads at the bottom of programming newsletters because people really like their programming newsletters. They like to know what's going on. So if you have just a little banner at the bottom, that's really easy and clickable, takes you straight to the website. That lowers that barrier for entry. And there's also metrics on all of these because again, it's really just important to look at how things are doing. For social media, you can post every couple of months, every 3 months. It's good to just have it out there so you can make like maybe a schedule. That's something we talk about in the guide, just making sure you're keeping things consistent so you can evaluate them effectively, basically. And for print, print is great. I love print. People like things. They like to hold things. They like to read things. So maybe you have some flyers near the Spanish language section or the travel section of your library to make sure that it's hitting people who might be more interested in learning a new language or who are trying to engage with those materials. Bookmarks for holds, that's a classic. Love bookmarks for holds. And you can also do signage at programming that is maybe like you have cultural heritage programming. Cinco de Mayo is this week. I know that's a little bit of a controversial one, but I know some areas really do celebrate that. So maybe you can integrate that with a program for that. And then on your website, just making sure you're lowering those barriers for entry and you're streamlining things. Double check your proxy links, have ads on your homepage, and then make sure you're keeping track of everything as you go. And that's what I got.
Any questions? The guide itself will be available on our website to download. We will include it in our marketing and training newsletters for June. Um, this is all because we've got our annual conference coming up and we want to make sure that we devote a lot of time to promotion of that before May 15th. And then after that, we will make this available and send it out to registrants of this webinar. But any questions about the guide, about e-resource marketing? Oh, good. That's so good to hear, Sean. I will say one of the edits that was developed for the guide was color coding by public library advice and academic library advice. So if you just want to skip to, I'm from an academic library, I want to jump to that, it'll be really easy to navigate the guide. All right. Well, if there are no questions, we'll wrap things up. Keep an eye out for a follow-up email from me with the slides, the recording, and a feedback survey. We love doing